welcome to Detailed Learning Institute Online. You are going to be learning really in detail these lectures. Just do what to follow on with everything you'll be doing. Always have your notebooks and write everything you need to write. Just Alright, welcome to Detailed Learning Institute Online. We are going to be solving some problems from JSS to Maths series. So after solving these problems, you should be able to solve any other similar question, any question that looks like these ones. After solving these problems, you should be able to solve any other similar questions. So we are going to be going through about four different questions. At the end of the day, you should be able to solve any question that looks like this. Okay, so let's start from the very first question which we have here. It says a man bought a TV for 15,000 naira and sold it for 9,000 naira. Calculate his percentage loss. Calculate his what? Percentage loss. Now, when you are given a question like this and you're asked to calculate for percentage loss or percentage profit, either percentage loss or what? Percentage profit. Either percentage loss or what? Percentage profit. So if you are to calculate for percentage anything, whether loss or profit, first of all, that tells us that we are going to be multiplying something by 100, because 100 is what we use for percentage. 100. So whenever we are saying percentage, we are saying solve with respect to 100. Percentage actually means what? Over 100. Over 100. So if you are saying anything in percentage, we are not saying do it over 100. Do that particular thing over what? 100. So we say 50%, we are saying 50 over 100. So when we talk about percentage, it means that we are not saying whatever we are actually talking about, let's talk about it over 100. Do you understand? Book percentage, we are saying book over 100. So whenever we use the word percentage, we are simply saying anything that we are talking about, let's talk about it over 100. That's what percentage means. That's the correct meaning for percentage, right? Okay. Now, but you see, there are times we can be given a value, and that value will not have percentage sign. Now, I've just told you that 50%. That means if you see anything like this, 50%, it means what? 50 over 100. You see it. If you see anything like this, 40%, it means what? 40 over 100. Do you understand? Okay. Now, but what if you are given a particular value? For example, you are given a value like this. For example, if you are given a value, whenever you want to write on anything in your notes which I have written down, you can simply pause the video and take it back, or take it back so that you can write down what you have, I have erased. Okay. Now, if you are given a value like this, for example, 0.5. and it's not a percentage, and they're not asking you convert 0.5 to a number in percentage, let it have percentage sign. What are you going to do? You are going to multiply it now by 100%. Why? Because there was no percentage sign attached to 0.5 initially. It was just a number. Just like now, if you are giving a number like a number like this, 0.8, you can see there's no percentage sign attached to this number, right? Now, if you are asked, write this number in percentage form, you are not going to say, because we are asked to do it in percentage form, we will not say over 100. No, that's not what you are going to do. That's not what you are going to do. That's not what you are going to do. The only time you do that, you say over 100, is if originally you were told 0.8%. if you're asked to describe 0.8% or interpret 0.8%, it means what? 0.8 over 100. That's what it means. In the same way, if you're asked to describe 30%, what will it be? It will be what? 30 over 100. That's because you are describing what you are giving. 30%, 0.8%. Now, but if you are asked now to convert a number, that number was not given in percentage. You can see for the 0.8% just now, there was a percentage sign attached to it, right? For the 30% that we saw just now, there was a percentage sign attached to it. This is the percentage sign. So there was a percentage sign attached to 0.8 and there was a percentage sign attached to 30. But now in this case, in the one we have here, there is no percentage sign attached to this 0.8. It's just 0.8. You are now asked to convert it into percentage. That means they are telling us what are we going to do so that we can have the right to put percentage beside it. You will not just come and write percentage beside it like that. You'll be wrong. There's something you have to do first before you have the right to now attach percentage to it, because percentage was not attached to it before. So what is that thing that you are going to do? That thing you are going to do is to what? Simply multiply it by what? 100. When you multiply it by 100, then whatever you have, you then have the right to put percentage sign. And what is that going to be? 80%. So that will be 80%, because we have multiplied it by 100 and now we are having this 80%, which you can see here. So now you can see we now have the right to put the percentage sign because we have multiplied this 0.8 by what? By 100. So until you do that, if you have not multiplied it by 100, you don't have the right to put the percentage sign. So we have to multiply it first by 100 before we put the what? The percentage sign. So now you can see that percentage has to do with what? 100, either over 100 or what? Times 100. So at times it can be what? Over 100. This is when you see the percentage sign already attached to the number. For example, if you have 30%, like I've explained before, so you just simply see what? 30 over 100. Or if the percentage sign is not attached to the number, for example, you have 0.8 like we have here, 0.8, the percentage sign is not attached to it. So what do you do to bring in the percentage sign? You multiply by what? 100. So that is why I said percentage has to do with what? 100. So now back to this question which we have here. Now they said the man bought his TV for what? For 15,000 naira, and now he sold it for 9,000 naira. So we are now asked to calculate his percentage loss. So what does that tell us? It means that in our final answer there should be a percentage sign, right? That's what it tells us now, because right now you can see all these values that are here. There is no percentage sign. It's just 15,000 naira, 9,000 naira. There is no percentage sign. So they're not saying calculate his percentage loss. That means in our final answer there should be what? There should be a percentage sign in our final answer. So now the question is, how do we get to that final answer where we attach our percentage sign? How do we get to that final answer? First of all, we will go back to the question again. I will check what we are given. So look at the question very well now. It says the man bought the TV for 15,000 naira, and then he sold it for what? For 9,000 naira. Is there any way we can compare these two prices? Is there any way we can compare it? Like compare the price that he used to buy the TV with the price that he used in selling the TV, or the price at which he sold the TV. Is there any way we can compare these two prices? Now let's assume the man bought the TV for 15,000 naira and then he also sold it for 15,000 naira also. Let's assume that is not what the question said, but let's just assume that he bought the TV for 15,000 naira and he also sold it for 15,000 naira. Now is there any change? There's no change, right? It's like it's the same. So how can we compare these two prices to show that there is no change? Do you know how we'll do it? We are going to use a division sign. Let's try division sign like this. Let's try 15,000 divided by what? 15,000. What will it give us? To give us 1. So you can see that it's giving us 1. That tells us that there is no what? There is no change. It's the same. Now, assuming it gave us 2, for example, 30,000 over 15,000. Now, if this is what we have and it gave us 2, now you can see that this tells us that there's, because we're having more than 1 here, we're having something bigger than 1. It can tell us that there was a change somewhere. It means that the top price, I mean the price in the numerator and the price in the denominator, they are not the same. That's what I mean by saying that there is no change or there is a change. Let's take a look at this first one. The price for buying the TV was 15,000 naira, and the price for selling the TV was 15,000 naira. So when we compare the two prices, we see that the answer is 1. So that tells us that there is no difference between the buying price and the selling price. So there is no change at all. It's the same. Now look at this one. Now he buys the TV for 15,000 naira and he sells the TV for 30,000 naira. You can see when we do the comparison using division sign or ratio, we have 2 as our answer. Now that tells us that the numerator and denominator are not the same, because if they are the same, there is no way we have 2 here. Do you understand? So what does this mean? This means that if you want to compare two prices, to check whether there is a difference or not, that difference now can be a loss or profit. Do you understand? That difference can be what? Loss or what? Or profit. If you want to do that comparison to check whether there is a loss or a profit, what are you going to do? Are you going to multiply the two prices? Of course not. You do what? You will divide. That is what we have just done. You use division sign to show what? The comparison. So now we are going to compare these two prices. The one that he used to buy it and the one that he used to what? Sell it. We are going to compare them. So the next question is, how are we going to compare them so that we can know what is the loss? Because they have already told us that the man had a loss. They said we should calculate his percentage. That means the man had a loss. So what are we going to do to compare? How are we going to compare to show that the man really had a loss? Now we are going to say, first of all, how much did the man use to sell the TV? The question says the man sold the TV for 9,000 naira. Good. Now you write this 9,000 naira down. Now how much did he buy the TV? We are going to check the amount that he used to sell the TV and compare it to the amount that he used to buy the TV, and let's see whether there is a loss or there is a profit. So that is why we will put the amount for selling it, which is 9,000 naira, we'll put it at the numerator, and then the amount for buying it, we'll put it at the denominator. Why? Because the amount he used to sell it rather with the one he used to buy it. That's what we are actually trying to compare. So for that reason, we'll put the one that he used to sell it in the numerator, and the one which he used to buy it at the denominator. At the end of the day, what are we going to get? We are going to get a particular value. Now that value we will get, we are not going to have a percentage sign attached to the value yet. Okay, so first of all, let us do the calculation. 0 cancels 0, 0 cancels 0, 0 cancels 0, and 3 can go into 9 to give us 3. 3 can go into 15 to give us 5. So we are going to have 3 over 5. So now we are going to convert this into decimal. We are going to convert this into to decimal. So to convert 3 over 5 into decimal, what is it going to give us? So we'll do the calculation and we'll have our answer. So that will give us 0.6. You can use long division method to solve this 3 over 5, or if you have a calculator beside you, you can use your calculator, but I will encourage you to learn how to use the long division method for that. If you don't know how to divide with long division method, you can contact me through my WhatsApp DM, which will be attached to this video, so that you can be updated on how you can learn that. Okay, now, but for this particular question, now we can see that what we have is 0.6. When we compare the selling price to the price which he used for buying that particular TV set, this answer that we have does not have percentage. Does not have what? Percentage. So what do we do to bring in percentage? Like I said, we have to multiply by what? By 100. Multiply by what? 100. Now after multiplying by 100, what will be our final answer? Our answer will be what? 60. Now we now have the right to add percent. 60%. That's our final answer. So you can see 60 what? Percent. So this is the percentage. This is the percentage value we have gotten by comparing the price for which the man sold the TV with the price for which he bought the TV. This is the percentage when comparing those two prices. But now you can see that this value is less than 100. Anytime we talk about percentage, I said we talk about 100, right? That means 100 is the complete value. Anything less than 100 shows a loss. And anything greater than 100 shows what? Profit. Do you understand now? So since we have 60%, after comparing the price for which the man sold the TV with the price the man bought the TV, we got 60%. That is less than 100. That means that there was actually a loss. So how do we calculate that loss? Now we'll calculate that loss by subtracting this 60% from 100%. Why? We assume that we say, let us assume that the man never had a loss. Let's assume the man sold the TV for the same price for which he bought it, the same price with which he bought the TV. Rather, let's assume the man sold the TV for that same price. So that means there will be no loss, right? There will be no loss. Now let's check what will be the percentage value. Now the man sold the TV for 15,000 naira. We are assuming he sold it for 15,000 naira, which is the same price with which he bought it. Now we are going to compare that with the price with which he used to buy the TV. And what will it give us? To give us 1. There is no percentage sign attached to it, right? So what do we do to bring in the percentage sign? We multiply by what? By 100. Now when we multiply by 100, it will give us what? 100%. You can see that there is no loss and there is no what? Profit. So this shows that at this point where we have 100% here now, because he's selling it at the same price, there is no what? Loss or profit. So we can decide to say, wow, now that it's going to be 100% if there was no loss or profit. Now that there is a loss, how do we know the loss? We will say, okay, now let's subtract that 60% which he had. Remember we had 60%, right? That was what we had as our answer. Hope you have not forgotten. When we compare the selling price to the price which he used for buying that particular TV set, this answer that we have does not have percentage. Does not have what? Percentage. So what do we do to bring in percentage? Like I said, we have to multiply by what? By 100. Multiply by what? 100. Now after multiplying by 100, what will be our final answer? Our answer will be what? 60. Now we now have the right to add percent. 60%. That's our final answer. So you can see 60 what? Percent. So this is the percentage. This is the percentage value we have gotten by comparing the price for which the man sold the TV with the price for which he bought the TV. This is the percentage when comparing those two prices. But now you can see that this value is less than 100. Anytime we talk about percentage, I said we talk about 100, right? That means 100 is the complete value. Anything less than 100 shows a loss. Now let's subtract this 60% from when the man did not have any loss or profit. That this is a neutral balance value, 100%. So the man did not have any loss or profit. So if you want to know what is the loss the man is now having here when he recorded 60%, we'll subtract this 60% from the time when the man never had any loss or profit. True or false? Good. So that's why we are going to subtract 60 from 100. Now if we subtract 60 from 100, that will be what? 100 minus 60. This will give us what? 40. Remember, our percentage sign must still be there because we are saying 100% minus 60%. That will give us what? 40%. So now what are we going to call this 40%? Is it 40% profit or 40% loss? It's going to be what? 40% loss. Remember, we already said it's going to be a loss because the value of the percentage which we got when the man sold the TV for 9,000 was what? 60%. So it's less than 100. That tells us that there's a loss. So eventually we're having what, 40% loss. So with this, you can solve another question that has to do with this. So if you are told that if you change the value of this 9,000 naira now, if you change it to 10,000 naira, and then you change the value of this 15,000 naira here to 12,000, the same way I solved it, you can also solve it and you get the correct answer. But remember that your final answer must have percentage sign. So hope that is clear. Okay, the next question says a man employed in the UK is paid £9.80 per hour. If he works 57.5 hours in a week, how much is his pay? How much is his pay? Okay, so now you can see here it says this man is employed, and the man's salary is £9.80 per hour. Okay, so now you have to understand this. When you say pounds per hour, it means that in every hour, that's why I say per hour. So in every hour he will be paid £9.80. So if he works for 1 hour, how much will he be paid? He will be paid £9.80. Now if he works for 57.5 hours in a week, how much will he be paid at the end of the week? Okay, so to do this calculation, which is very simple, is just for you to ask yourself, you say, now how many pounds is he paid if he works for 1 hour? If he works for 1 hour, the question tells us that he will be paid £9.80. This will pay to him when he works for 1 hour. Okay, so now if he's going to work for 57.5 hours, that is 57.5 hours in a week. So the question is, how much will he be paid? So we'll call that X. So now because we are having hours on this side, amount of money to be paid on this side, and then we're having hours on this side, so we can cross multiply. This is a relationship. This is how you can solve a question like this in mathematics. You draw a relationship like this that says, okay, 9.8 pounds, this is the symbol for pounds. £9.8 is paid to him when he works for 1 hour. Then how many pounds, which is X pounds, will pay to him when he works for 57.5 hours. So we'll cross multiply like this, and that will be what? 1 times what? X. 1 times X should be equal to 9.8 times 57.5. 9.80 times 57.5. So 1 times X will give X. X should equal to 9.8 times 57.5 will give to give 5,563.5. Okay, so now remember that the X we are talking about here is the amount of money, and it's in pounds, so we can say 563.5 pounds is what he will be paid at the end of the week. Alright, good. Now this is also the same thing as saying 563.5. So this is the symbol for pounds. Okay, So hope that's clear. So this is how you can solve a question that looks like this. So if they change the values from 9.8 to any other value, you can also solve it. If they change this to any other value, you can also solve it using the same method. Good. So now the next question is going to be talking about this, which is square root sign. So this is the next question which we are going to be solving. Now when you see this question here is trying to test your understanding of square root. So if you understand square root of numbers, then you should be able to solve this question. Okay, so the question here is that we should solve this without using calculator. So solve this, what you have here, square root of 75 over 147. Solve it without using what? Without using calculator. So how do we go about that? Good. Now, first of all, we have to understand that there are some numbers that it is possible for us to find their square root. What did I say? There are some numbers that it is very possible for us to find their square root, and it's not going to give us a remainder. It will give us a whole number. For example, a number like 25. The square root of 25 is what? Is 5. A number like 9. The square root of 9 is what? 3. A number like 81. The square root of 81 is what? Is 9. And a number like 169. The square root of 169 is what? Is 13. So all of these numbers, it's easy to find the square root and to give us a whole number without any decimal point. But there are some numbers that it's not possible to find the square root without having a decimal point. So those numbers, they are called what? They are not. Those numbers are not perfect squares. They are not what? Perfect squares. So these numbers that helps us, that we can easily find the square root. So these numbers for which we can easily find the square root, example we have, I said example we said 9. What other one again? 81. We also have 49. We have 25. We have 169. 12 times 12 is what? 144, right? 144. So all of these numbers, you see, it is possible for us to multiply a number by itself to give us each of these numbers. For example, how do we get 9? We get 9 by saying 3 times what? 3. How do we get 81? We can get 81 by saying 9 times 9. How do we get 49? We can get 49 by saying 7 times 7. How do we get 25? We can get 25 by saying what? 5 times 5. How do we get 169? We can get 169 by saying 13 times 13. How do we get 144? By saying 12 times 12. Good. Now you can see that each and every one of these numbers, we can get them by simply multiplying two numbers by themselves. That will help us to get the number. Because we can multiply a particular number by itself to get this number is called a perfect square. So this 9 is called a what? It's called a perfect square. Perfect square. The same thing goes for 81. 81 is also a perfect square. 49 is a perfect square. 25 is a perfect square. 169 is a perfect square, and 144 is also a perfect square. But now when we talk about a number like 47, a number like 47, it's not possible for us to have um a single number that we can multiply by itself to give 47. So there is no number that we can multiply by itself to give 47. So for this reason, 47 is not a perfect square. It's not a what? It's not a perfect square. 47 is not a perfect square. Alright, now the same thing happens for 75 and 147. These two numbers, they are not perfect squares because there's no number that we can multiply by itself to give us these numbers, each of them, right? Good. Now any number that is not a perfect square does not have a whole does not have a square root that will not have a decimal. So except a number is a perfect square, it cannot have a square root that will not have a decimal point. The square root of 9 is 3. The square root of 81 is 9. The square root of 49 is 7. The square root of 25 is 5. The square root of 169 is 13. The square root of 144 is 12. Simply because these numbers are perfect squares. So we can just take one of the two numbers that multiplies each other to get them. We can take one of them to be the square root. But for a number like 47 that is not a perfect square, we cannot take one number to be the square root. It must have a decimal point. So that makes the process of solving this kind of question naturally difficult. So you cannot just solve square root of 75 over 147. You cannot just solve square root of 75 over 147 without a calculator easily. It will be difficult for you to solve this without a calculator. Yes, so you need a calculator to solve it. But the only way it can be possible for you to solve this without a calculator is to think of two numbers that you can multiply to get this one, which is 75, in such a way that one of them will be a perfect square. The same thing for this 147. We think of two numbers that we can multiply to get 147, but one of them should be a perfect square, so that we can find the square root of that one, right? So now just watch how we do it. For 75, if we look at 75, what can divide 75? 5 can go to 75. Now because 5 can go to 75, and remember 5 can also go into 25. 5 can also go into 25. So now how many times will 5 go into how many times will 5 go to 25? To go into 25, 5 times, right? How many times will 5 go to 75? So we can also evaluate the number of times 5 go into what? Into 75. But because 5 can go into 75 and into 25, that means that 25 may be able to go into 75 also. So we can confirm that by dividing 75 by 25 with the calculator, or by counting, or by long division, and you discover that 25 will go into 75 3 times. So that makes the work easy. Since 25 is a perfect square, we can find the square root of 25, and 25 can also go into 75. It make it easy, so we can replace 75 by what? 25 times 3. Why are we replacing 75 by 25 times 3? Because we need a perfect square in this place so that we can easily find the square root, and this is a perfect square. Because this is a perfect square, and whenever I multiply 25 times 3, it will give me 75. I'll simply replace 75 with what? This expression, 25 times 3, so that I can easily find the square root of this one. What about 147? What can we replace 147 with? That one in which one of them will be a perfect square. Now 147 can be replaced by 49. So 147 can be replaced by 49. 49 times what? 49 times 3 will give us 147. Now because 49 times 3 will give us 147, I can write 49 times 3 in the place of what? 147. Remember, it's still going to be in the square root sign. We have not removed the square root yet. So how do we remove the square root? Now since we have something that is common here, we can say 3 cancels 3, right? So what are we left with? We are left with square root of what? 25 over 49. 25 over 49. Now this is the same thing as saying square root of 25 divided by square root of what? 49. Square root of 25 is what? 5. That is 5. And square root of 49 is 7. So that means this is the final answer, 5 over 7. So we have been able to successfully break down this number into this, and you can do that, you can achieve that without even using a calculator. What you need to know is how to find two numbers that can multiply themselves to replace this one, since this one is not a perfect square. And how do you do that? You can check. Since here we have 7 at the end of this, it means that 7 can go into this what? Into 147. And if 7 can go into 147, you ask yourself, 7 times 7 is what? 7 times 7 is 49. So can 49 also go into 147? Do you understand? Good. Now you discover that 49 can go into 147 how many times? 3 times. You can test it by saying 49 times 2. You do the multiplication. You discover that it's not up to 147. You increase this to 3. And then you see that you have what? 147 as your answer. So that's how you will know that 49 times 3 can be used to replace what? 147. You come over to the numerator of 75. How do you know the two numbers that will be used to replace 75? You check the last digits in 75. We have what? 5 there. That means 5 should be able to go into 75. Now 5 times 5 is what? 25. Now since 5 times 5 is 25, can 25 go into 75? Let's find out. You come here and say 25 times 2 will give what? 50. It's not up to 75. You increase this number to what? 3. You try it. 25 times 3 will give us what? 75. Since 25 times 3 will give us 75, it means that we can replace 75 with what? 25 times 3, because 25 has a square root that will not have a decimal. 49 also have a square root that will not have a decimal. So that is how we can know the two numbers that we can use to replace these ones. And once we have replaced it, you solve it the way I have solved it, like this. You take the square root of the numerator over the square root of the denominator, and that will give you what? 5 over 7 as the final answer. So now when you have any other question given to you like this, you can also solve it using the same method. So let's go to the next question that we are going to solve in this math problem series. We have minus 4 times plus 9. Minus 4 times what? Plus 9. Now you can see that these two things are in a bracket. Minus 4 is in a bracket, plus 9 is in a bracket. Now before I solve this question, I'm going to give you this, which you write down in your notes. I'm going to write this down in your notes. Plus times minus is equal to minus. Minus times plus is equal to minus. Plus times plus is equal to plus. Minus times minus is equal to plus. I'm going to write this down in your notes, inside your notes, and you make sure you never forget it. This is a mathematics standard, mathematics principle that is used when solving any question. If you don't know this, you know that you are going to miss almost every calculation question you solve if you don't know this. Yes, you are going to miss almost every calculation question you solve in maths. So it's something you have to memorize and know. It's very easy. Plus times minus gives minus. Minus times plus gives minus. So anytime plus and minus are being combined, it must always give us minus. Anytime minus and plus are being combined, it must always give us minus. Remember, the combination is by terms. We are not talking about addition or subtraction. We are talking about terms. anytime they are being combined by timesing them or multiplying them. Anytime plus and plus are being combined by multiplying them, it will always give us plus. And anytime minus and minus are being combined by multiplying them, it will always give us plus. Now I will show you something. Look at this. If I change all of these multiplication sign, if I change all of them to division, now if they are being combined by division, let us watch what the answer will be. Let's see if the answers will change. If they are being combined by division, that means I can change this to plus divided by minus, minus divided by plus, plus divided by plus, minus divided by minus. Now even after changing the signs to division, the answer will not change. So this makes it very easy for you to memorize that anytime plus and minus are being combined by multiplication or division, the answer is always minus. Anytime minus and plus are being combined by multiplication or division, the answer is always what? Minus. And anytime plus and plus are being combined by division, the answer is always plus. Again, anytime minus and minus are being combined by division, the answer is always what? The answer is always plus. Alright, good. Now why are we talking about this? Because make sure you write it down in your notes. We are talking about this because whenever you are calculating or solving any problem in mathematics, the fact is that you are going to make use of this. Every number has a sign. What did I say? Every number has a sign. There is no number in mathematics that does not have a sign. Number or variable or alphabets. When we say alphabets, we're talking about the variables. Those ones that don't have any number, any numerical value. Every number or alphabet in mathematics has a sign. And if you see a number like this, 3, what's the sign? The sign is positive, even if they don't write it. So if you see a number that is standing without a sign, just know that the sign is automatically what? Positive. But if the number is given a sign like -3 or -5, then you know that the number is what? Negative. So every number has a sign. It can be a variable. If you see a variable like x in mass, what's the sign? The sign is positive because they are not showing any sign. If you see a variable like -y, the sign is what? Negative. So every alphabet of variable must have a sign. If the sign is not showing, automatically the sign is positive. You must know that the sign is positive. If there is no sign showing there, just know that the sign is what? Positive. Now, what are we going to do now? When we are multiplying two numbers, you don't only multiply the numbers, you also multiply the signs. You are no longer in primary school where you just say 4 times 9 is equal to this. First of all, you must understand now that when you are multiplying two numbers, the first thing you multiply is the number, the next thing you multiply the what? The sign. In fact, the first thing you multiply is the sign. Then the second thing you multiply is the number. So first of all, minus times plus is what? Minus times plus is minus. So the answer is minus what? 4 times 9. Now 4 times 9 will give us 4 times 9 will give us what? 4 times 9 will give us what? 36, right? Yes. 4 times 9 will give us 36. So the answer is what? Minus 36. You see it? That's how I arrive at the answer. So whenever you are doing it, so any multiplication or division in mathematics, what's the first thing you multiply or divide? The sign, followed by the what? The numbers. Let's come here. This is another question. Let's do the same thing here. Now in this very question, we have -4 times -2 times what? -5. So the first thing you multiply is the sign. Minus times minus is what? Minus times minus is what? Plus. 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 So now we have done that plus. We'll continue. Plus times minus is what? Minus. So we are going to have, finally, we are going to have minus here. The next thing now is to multiply the numbers. 4 times 2 is what? 8. 8 times 5 is what? 40. So our final answer will be what? Minus 40. Minus 40 all over. So we'll come to the denominator. We'll do the same thing in the denominator. We'll first of all multiply the sign. Remember I told you that whenever you see a number that is standing without a sign, the sign is what? Plus. So minus times plus is what? Minus. Minus times minus is what? Plus. So we first of all we have a plus. You write it down. Then you now multiply the numbers. 3 times 2 is what? 6. 6 times 6, 36. So we have 36. Now we are not done, because you can see that we are still having a fraction that we have to resolve. We have to break down. Something is common. Yes, 2 is common. 2 can go. So before we divide the numbers, we have to divide the sign first. Minus divided by plus is what? Minus. Okay. Now 2 into 40 gives us what? 20. And 2 into 36 gives us 2 we go into 3 to give us 1, and then 2 into 16 gives us 8, so 18. Again, 2 can still go. So now you can see we are having minus 20 over 18. The sign now is minus. So since we are having a common sign, this sign now is common to both numerator and denominator. So we can even put this in a bracket to show that the sign belongs to both of them. This sign belongs to both of them. So we can continue our division, and we'll say 2 into 20 will give what? 10, and 2 into 18 will give 9. So eventually our answer becomes, okay, because of the space, let me erase part of this, so I'll write it again. So you can see how we work with signs. It's very, very important to take note of sign. 20 over 18. If you do not take note of signs in mathematics, you will get your questions wrong. So our final answer becomes 10 minus 10 over 9. So this is our final answer, minus 10 over 9. So after solving this question, you have to get minus 10 over 9. Alright, so you have those two questions here to practice with. You're going to solve this root 50 over 32 without using a calculator, and then you also solve this minus 2 times 4 times minus 8 divided by minus 6 times minus 2 times 9. So you solve it without using a calculator. Okay, so you also solve this number 3, also add this one to it. Solve root 48 over 75 without using a calculator. Alright, so these are the questions you solve, and to practice this which you have learned. Alright, till our next lecture, stay blessed. Remember that Jesus loves you and he wants you to be his friend and give him your heart. So if you have not given Jesus your heart, you still have an opportunity to give your heart to Jesus and be his friend every day. Till our next lecture, stay blessed.